1310, 92.7 FM, 95.1 FM, The Light, and its management. And now,
good morning.
To address the legal concerns of our community, AM 1310 The Light presents Legally Speaking. Here is today's host.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. We're going to have another outstanding show to deal with the current legal issues of today. I have my superstar panel, Milton Grimes from LA and Vanita Banks from Chicago in today to discuss current legal issues. Before I get started, I am concerned about the violence that is occurring in our city. Yesterday, there was like 5 shootings in Indianapolis in a couple hours. I don't get it. As soon as a police officer responded to a shooting that occurred at 16th and Meridian, there was another shooting in another location. So these shootings were occurring just randomly. And I think that as a community, we have to look at this a little bit more carefully because folks are being killed indiscriminately and there's not even a pattern. I saw that a father shot a football coach and was arrested recently because he took his son to a football game. So I'm saying all these random acts of violence, and it's not going to solve anything, folks. If you have your kids, if they have guns, you need to take them away because right now it seems like these teenagers and they're all getting guns and somebody had to be paying for them. Just remember those folks up in just recently got indicted in Michigan because his son murdered those kids at school. You could have potential parental liability. So get those guns off the streets and be careful. Having said that, we've been simultaneously broadcast on 3 stations, 1310 AM, 92.7 FM, and 95.1 FM. Our phone number is 317-239-1310. Now we'll start off with Attorney Banks. Attorney Banks, you got this case going over in, Wisconsin, that the young man, Dante, got killed by a police officer. What do you think about that case?
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to really follow the case last week, but as you know, the trial has commenced and several witnesses have testified. And you had asked, what we think the outcome may be. At this juncture, not sure, but as you know, there's the body cam footage. It's clear that the officer, is very, very contrite, coming across contrite and sorry. And she is taking the position that she accidentally, used her taser. That she thought she was drawing her taser instead of her gun. And so it'll just be interesting to see how this case and this trial unfolds. And I plan to follow it more this week.
Well, it's a fascinating case. I only watched a snippet of it, but the part I watched was a supervisor was saying, that no longer in the department, was saying that if she hadn't killed him, he would have been injured based on the fact that the suspect was going to injure somebody by driving off. And the video footage also on the civil side bring in the issue of qualified immunity. In those Supreme Court decisions, they've allowed police officers who engage in this type of shooting when the suspect is involved in committing a criminal offense. So in this case here, the video, what was clear is that he was stopped and, I'm not sure what was the purpose of the stop, whether or not it was a legal stop or not, but he was stopped. And after he was stopped, I saw in the video where he decided for a reason to accelerate and then she shot him. So that's going to be a fascinating case because the outcome of that case, I don't know. It's going to be a close case either way. Have you watched any of it, Milton Grimes?
all the training I can get for you.
I read some newspaper reports of it, Nate. You asked if we thought that the officer would be convicted. You know, they have a hazardous job. We all admit to that. But they go through training as to your gun is on your right and your taser is on your left. And I believe that's the situation. And it definitely was negligent on her part. I just don't see the circumstances being so dangerous to her safety that it was necessary to even, maybe it was necessary to tase him, but it was negligent for her to pull her gun and pull the trigger. I don't know what the trigger pull is on the taser as opposed to a gun, but I would assume that it's different. Negligent homicide, involuntary homicide. There's some part of the criminal law I think that she would be responsible for, but intentional, I don't know. She reacted right away in the moment. Oh my God, I'm sorry. They said that she was, just tore up over
distraught.
it. Yeah, she was just, she expressed everything that would go along with, she did not mean to do it. I don't know the law in that state fully about negligent homicide, or involuntary. So I don't know, man. I really don't. I haven't kept up with it close enough to give an intelligent opinion about it, honestly.
The one thing I thought was critical is that they were saying that she had never fired a weapon in the line of duty before.
Yeah, she's been on the job 25 years, had never fired a weapon, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what, I'm thinking, man, this is.
So that goes a lot to say, that's a lot to say for. We got cops around here, got three kills in the Anaheim Police Department over there where Disneyland is. So I'd say when you come visit Disneyland, folks, watch out, because they got some killing cops in Anaheim, California. You got some cops over in Torrance, man, that's writing stuff, texting each other about, what is the word? They used to, back in 95, when the feds sued them for racist tactics and practice, they were using codes like NIT, talking about Black folks in Torrance. And then they got an NITAD, that about the Black folks using the N-word in Torrance after dark. And now,
well, I mean, what's the acronym mean? I could
the N-word in
right.
Torrance after dark. NIT, AD.
Oh,
so
okay.
This is today. This is front page. The article in today's paper, racist cop returns in Torrance. All this week, it's been the text messages from at least 12 to 15 cops where they have been writing. I wish I'd bought yesterday's paper in. They talking about what shouldn't be hanging from this tree, a Christmas decoration or a slave. And they say, you don't hang the angel or something like that, means you hang the slave, you hang the Black person. They got some horrible text messages between each other. So that's the culture of the Torrance Police Department right down the street. I got to go by it every time I go from one county to another. So that's what's happening here in California. I'm sorry to say,
Wow. Well, Attorney Banks, the other issue moving forward, your city had the trial of the week in Jesse Smollett. Is that correct?
That's right. And
I don't think he had a good outcome to his trial.
That's true. After about 9 hours of deliberations, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on 5 of the 6 low-level felony accounts against Mr. Smollett. Low-level class 4 felonies, disorderly conduct. There was another, I think, count pertaining to lying to a police officer. But this case just basically netted down to whether the court or whether the jury believed Mr. Smollett's story, that he was a victim of a hate crime. And I can tell you that Mr. Smollett's story lacked credibility, although he, in some areas, his story lacked credibility. And the brothers who were the main witnesses against him, they were not, credible at all either. And so an interesting case that netted down to whether the jury believed that he was the victim of a hate crime or whether or not he staged an attack on himself.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there. I know when it first happened back a couple of years ago or so, I was disturbed by such a crime being committed on that young man. And then when it started coming and everybody was behind him, and so was I. And then when it started changing around as to these two guys, and they weren't hiding from anyone. They were hired to do what he asked them to do. And the story just didn't add up and make sense once you looked at all of the facts. And there was too much inconsistency, too many illogical results. And so I say for what he did and taking advantage of the moment with the racial situation in this country the way it is, if he did what they said he did, he deserved to be punished. Because the last thing we need is someone faking a racial hate crime, black or white. So I don't have that much empathy for him, even though I hate to see a black man get convicted. I think it's a lot of them that are not guilty of the charges. But in this case, it seemed as though the evidence weighed against him.
Well, I was concerned about another factor. I've been in some litigation wars up in Chicago, and the one thing that I found out was true in every case I dealt with is that the cops were chronic liars. And one of the problems that we had, particularly in Chicago, is that they don't allow you to secretly record police officer statement, and they don't have body cameras. And so you have a police officer shooting. Now, they convicted of one officer, but, I dealt with these shooting cases. The police officers will conceal material evidence. And very frustrating to me. I did a trial in which the key witness in the case suddenly got shipped to Africa the week before the trial, and he was under subpoena. And so the Defense Department, the city of Chicago, one of the lawyers got suspended from the practice for concealing evidence, but routinely they were getting away with it. So when I saw this case with Smollett, I didn't like the idea of this young man allegedly fabricating this gay hate type crime. But on the other hand, I didn't like what I consider just chronic liars police officers in the Chicago Police Department trying to be sanctimonious, saying that, in every case I've dealt with, they were just chronic liars. I'm sure there's a lot of good police officers in Chicago. It's just that I've had a difficult time finding them. And so that was my take on it. But
I tried a criminal case on 26 in California in Chicago, and I tried a death penalty case out in Joliet, Illinois. And my impression, and Ms. Banks, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you get a good salt of the earth jury pool that got common sense. They're not hoodwinked by these lying cops necessarily. In the jury that I had in the case in Chicago on 26 in California, I had 6 African Americans on my jury and mixture of other races. But I could talk to them, I could reason with them. I felt different than when I had tried cases in other places with a different composition. So I would think that jury was consisting of people with insight, common sense, and practical experience, and experience with police officers, and not believing everything cops say. Now, maybe even Ms. Banks has a different opinion of the juries back there, but that was my take on the juries in Joliet even, and in Chicago.
That's fascinating, Attorney Grimes. I do know that in this case, there were 6 men and 6 women on the jury, and that there was only 1 Black juror selected, but there wasn't much concern, if you will, if any, that I heard in this case or complaints regarding the composition of this jury.
Well, my problem, so you both know the case I tried up there, I've never had a Black on the jury because I was in federal court and there were no Blacks on,
yeah.
And I raised all kind of arguments with the judge and fell on deaf ears. And it was just bizarre to me that you could have all those Black folks in Chicago and in the jury panel in federal court have 0 in the panel, 0.
I don't understand that. As a matter of fact, just to throw some history in, it was during the time that Johnny was trying OJ's case. And Johnny and I, as you know, I represented 2 jurors that had been dismissed in OJ's case. And Johnny and I would talk weekly about different stuff involved in the trial. And I remember calling him one night when I was in trial. I'm going, man, I'm gonna report you to the bar. He said, what are you talking about, fool? I said, I'm reporting you to the bar, man, because you're not right. And he said, what is it? I said, I have 6 African Americans on my jury. And for the first time in my life, I feel as though people are listening to me. I don't have to explain some of my sentences or words or expressions. I got connection. And you got 9 African Americans on your jury, and that's not fair to the government. And so we got a kick out of it. Feels real good to talk to your own people being on the jury. That's all. Just want to share that story.
Well, Cook County is like 30% African American, and that's why I was so upset when I raised all kind of motions with the judge. How can you have 30% of the population base, and what you consider other minority, white population is only like 51%, so 49% are other folks. How can you have a jury panel of like in that case 24 people that are all white?
Yeah, you can end up in LA now with a non-Black juror or non-Blacks on your jury. They changed that composition possibility in LA by sending people out into surrounding cities rather than letting them just concentrate on their location. So we don't get that many African-American jurors here in LA anymore on the case.
Wow. So the problem though that in most jurisdictions is that a lot of Blacks are not showing up for jury service. It's a really critical problem, particularly here in Indianapolis. I tried a bunch of cases and I threatened to sue the jury pool, only discovered that the reason that we didn't have Blacks in the pool is that they got subpoenaed, but they didn't show up. And so the courts weren't enforcing the subpoena because they were okay with that, because the whites, Republican type people show up, but not Blacks that are Democrats or community-minded folks. In civil cases, it makes a lot of difference. I'm not sure about the criminal cases here local, but the civil cases is a world of difference because people in the city, they experience the hardship. And so you don't want to have people who don't have some identification with the hardship that we face on a daily basis and the struggles. And so you want to get people from the community making decisions about the community. And I think that's paramount to our justice system. Now, yes, go ahead.
I agree.
I would imagine now, though, if they pull the data together, there are less showing up because of the pandemic and the mask requirement. And it's, I don't know what the hit is, but I can imagine there are less minorities coming forward to serve on jury duty as there are others. I don't know if there's any data on that yet. But I noticed, I did read that the death rate on our highways has doubled in the last 2 years for some strange reason. Maybe the pandemic, maybe just a change in attitude of people. You started the program off talking about your neighborhood shooting. It's so common here in LA to have a shooting every day. You don't even see it on the front page anymore. I don't know if it's the water or the pandemic or what, but something is in the air. It feels like, if I were superstitious, that's causing people to act a little bit more aggressive and angry and whatever.
Okay, Imhotep, we got a caller. Imhotep, what, you have a comment? You gotten all these shooting going amok here in the city. What do you think, sir?
I'll get to that just in 1 second, because I was reading some great information this morning on some causative effects. But going to your discussion, which you've had a number of times by talking about the juries and stuff like that, and your colleague, Tina Cosby said yesterday that Jesse Smollett had been convicted by a jury of his peers, and I was trying to find out what was the makeup of the jury, especially being in that county, and then what would, as we know, with the Equal Protection and Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, and going back to the Norris and Powell cases years ago, what would you consider a black person having a jury of their peers? We know what happened with the Curtis Flowers case and what went on down there in Mississippi. Critical events that happened to determine actually how do we determine when a black person is having a jury of their peers? So that would be my first question. And to answer your violence question, according to Judge Mathis, my work out here and many others, I was just reading stuff from up in Chicago, and Chicago Crusader and other places. A lot of it, Judge Mathis says, a lot of it has nothing to do with even drugs. It's beef, Facebook, and stuff like that. A lack, Judge Joe Brown says a lack of manhood training, a lack of acculturation and socialization training amongst certain groups of people. Others will say economics, as Judge Mathis would say. A lot of economic issues drive violence, stuff like that. As you talk to sociologists and psychologists and stuff like that. So, there are a myriad of factors, but I've always respected Judge Mathis as a person who goes around the country who has definitely dealt with a lot of these groups. He cites poverty as a lot of it. That's his main culprit. Not the only culprit, but he says the main culprit to him, along with these beats, Facebook. So maybe we need to get some Buddhist teaching. I just had my grandchildren doing some meditation this morning and try some techniques to relax and calm our people down, children and adults. But see, give me an answer what you think about what constitutes a jury of our peers, because a judge from Kentucky years ago got lambasted when he said, a black judge said that a black person should never be judged by an all-white jury. I remember that vividly. I can't remember his name now, but he got 30 days suspended. He didn't back down on that. What is a jury of our peers as black people? Thank you.
I don't know. Attorney Banks, what do you think?
I'm going to start with you litigators, okay? Because you selected these juries over many, many years. And, I think I set the stage for the conversation when I pointed out the jury composition in the Smollett case. 1 black juror, 6 women, 6 men. And I know from working with the two of you and watching you select juries and conduct trials, over the years, that if 1 black juror is selected, that can help to level the playing field. So what do you think?
Milton?
It makes a difference when there's an African American or African Americans on the jury as to the interpretation, understanding, and translation of acts and behavior and background, being knowledgeable and having been involved in that. just quickly, we did an experiment at our trial lawyers college once. I did. It just so happened there were enough Black attorneys there for me to do this. And it was I selected 12 Black, it was 15 Black folks out of 60 lawyers. And I said, okay, we're gonna do a jury trial. And I picked the jury, 12 jurors set. They were all Black. And I selected the defendant. He was white. And the lawyer for him was Black. And the judge was Black. And I asked the whites in the audience, what does it feel like? You think your brother gonna get a fair trial? And they started scratching their head. And these lawyers said, well, it don't look right. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was the defendant. That's for damn sure if it was a criminal situation. And so it gave a view of what it looks like when you got a all white jury and you're a Black defendant in a criminal case. You don't expect these people to be fair to you because of our history with one another. So when you're talking about picking a jury of your peers, I try to use that example sometime for judges to say, we need another panel to come in. We need some diversity in this panel because this person cannot get a fair trial. You know, the judge back in Virginia said he was never going to try another Black man in his courtroom as long as the pictures of all these white men are on the walls in the courtroom. Why? Because there is a subliminal communication of white supremacy in that setting. So a jury of your peers, it's like, what is pornography? I don't know, but I know it when I see it. You know, I know what sex scene is pornography and what sex scene may be art. So I know that I want some African Americans on any jury that I'm in front of if my clients are white, because I'm Black. I want people to be there that can say, well, no, he didn't mean that. He meant this or something, to give me a feeling of being understood. That's why I said earlier about Johnny and I talking that time about the fairness or the feeling you have being in front of a certain group of people. It does make a difference. It made a difference in a major trial I did here in LA, a federal case, the King case. If I hadn't had 2 Latinos and 1 Black and a Filipino on that jury, we wouldn't be talking about the King case because we would have lost that case. And that's clear in my mind as anything I've ever seen. So it makes a difference. We can poke at what is a peer, what is a jury of your peers. And that may never really clearly be defined. May not be an all Black jury, or an all white jury for a white person, but it's supposed to be a jury from your community, you know, and that's a mixture of people, and it ain't all white. So that's my explanation.
Okay, we'll go back to the line. Oh, go ahead.
That's
What?
such a brilliant response, and it just nets down for me your comments that diversity matters on a jury. It matters a lot.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yes.
Diversity matters.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to the line to get another caller. Caller, you have a question for us today?
Yeah, this is Pierre. You guys are talking about Colette. I make the observation, or maybe I missed it, that you guys never gave an analysis of the R. Kelly case. And a lot of people don't care about him. But my thing is, it seems to me that will he have an opportunity for appeal? Because it seems to me he had 2 of the worst attorneys in the world that had never tried a case. The other attorneys quit. They never tried a case in federal court or whatever, with some kind of observation like that. And I make that observation because I look at what the government went after him, okay? But the Sacklers and their drugs put hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, destroyed their lives, put a lot of young people out there on the street, turned out a lot of people from Maine to California, and the government decided not to pursue them and go after them when they turned out a whole lot of young people. And I mean, it's just the way enforcement works in this country. And thank God the Washington State Attorney General is not taking that suit, is not taking that settlement for his state. $500 million is an insult for what the Sacklers got away with and their drugs. And I see the government, they went hard on tails, but nobody's going after the Sacklers. They got to make a payoff. So it's kind of two questions. Will we have an opportunity for appeal? And just, you guys never did an analysis on that case.
Well, the reason being is that I think we had so many major jury trials going in America, and you can't follow all of them, Pierre. I mean, you know, every day there's some litigation going somewhere in this country, right? And the news of the day at the time, you know, we had these major trials going, you know, starting with the case Floyd trial. Then there's just a series of critical trials that find conduct in the community. Now, the R. Kelly case, it was such a unusual set of facts in the sense that one of the allegations that he had this fetish of dealing with these teenage girls. And, you know, you could be a big fan of R. Kelly, but it's difficult to fathom why would somebody be supportive of someone who's having sex with 13-year-old girls? That doesn't make any sense to me. You know, in other words, that's criminal. And so the problem that exists is that there were just so many allegations about this aberrant behavior of R. Kelly. So it's, I don't know, I didn't watch the trial, but I knew about the allegations starting with Aaliyah. He ended up marrying her, and she was a teenage kid at the time that they started a relationship. So there was a lot of damning evidence against him. So Pierre, you could say that the lawyers were bad. I don't know. I didn't watch the trial. I'm not sure that trial was actually televised. Was that trial televised, Pierre? Or we lost him?
I don't. It was not televised, but in terms, it was not televised. But in terms of question regarding appeal, I'm sure that there will be an appeal. There may be some, and we have to go back and analyze the case again, some opportunity to appeal, you know, based on how RICO, the Racketeering, the Federal Racketeering Act was used in the case in prosecuting him in the case in New York. And there also may be some double jeopardy ramifications as well. Interestingly, and the caller mentioned the attorney in the case, his attorney in the Chicago case, which is set for trial, I believe, early next year, stepped down. And from what I was reading at the time, based on, you know, the egos of all the attorneys in the case, and so he stepped down, the Chicago attorney stepped down from withdrew from the New York case. And interestingly, one of R. Kelly's main attorneys was formerly a prosecutor representing victims in sexual assault cases, and has more recently moved to defending individuals like celebrities and others like R. Kelly that have been accused in these types of cases. So that's what I can share at this time regarding the R. Kelly case.
Yeah, well, he definitely has a right to appeal. I'm sorry, Ms. Banks. He definitely has a right to appeal, sir. I don't know if you're still on the program or not. And they can look at the incompetency of counsel that you're talking about. If his attorneys were that incompetent, that's a good ground for appeal if they can prove that. But from what I learned over the years, I was wondering when they were going to prosecute him for his sexual conduct. It appeared to me over the years, because he was talked about and laughed about and people knew that he was having sex with underage girls because he was videotaping himself having sex with the underage 13, 14-year-old girls and boasting about it. And it was almost like, I can do what you can't do. I can do anything I want to do because I'm R. Kelly. And so that, I mean, that I may be wrong, but that's what I gathered from things over the years. 10, 15 years ago, they were talking about, and guys were sending out videos, sending them around of R. Kelly having sex with underage girls. So I don't know all of the evidence that came in, but I would hope that he got a fair trial. But that's all I have to say about it. I didn't keep up with it day to day and what the evidence was and what this witness said and what that witness said or what lawyer left or what lawyer came. But that's all I can say about it.
Well, one thing, I got one issue that was hit home with me. I used to be a freaking concert goer. I used to go to all the concerts. One of the concerts I went to was an R. Kelly concert a long time ago. And in his rendition music, he does a sexual scene on stage. It was bizarre to me, you know, and I was thinking to myself, there's something fundamentally wrong with this guy. And so I never went to any more of his concerts, you know, and so I don't know. I fundamentally, I thought that it was just bad conduct to be involved with these teenage girls like that. I didn't get it. And also the ones that came to his defense, the parents were saying they were brainwashed, kind of crazy, all crazy stuff, 18, 19-year-old girls at the time, but he had a relationship with them when they were younger than that.
Right.
And so I think R. Kelly, what, around 50 or so? You know, I don't know his age, but I was troubled by his victims and their ages. And so, I mean, I'm not a criminal lawyer, but that was troublesome to me. And I could not on any level condone that type of misconduct at any time. And so I didn't have a lot of sympathy for him being convicted of those crimes. It got incredible talent, one of the greatest vocalists of all time, but he had some demons that I think that, based on the news account, that are just really bad. So I don't know.
Nate, you know, entertainers, athletes, maybe, I don't know how many musicians you deal with, but I've dealt with a few musical organizations and musicians here in LA and agents and managers and guys. And it's a common, how would I say this? It still hasn't come out as fully blown as I understand it is, that it was common, especially back before the Me Too hashtag, for young women to know what it took to get to the next step in their career. And the proposition was there. You signed this contract, but you got to go in that room there and for a couple of hours before this contract is implemented. It's an ugly industry to me, the music industry, especially the entertainment industry, of what it, not just the young ladies, the people I know said, you know, an attractive or a male who's attracted to the heads in that industry have to do what they want them to do sexually to get ahead. And it may not be everybody, but many of them who don't have backup, who don't have someone advising them properly, they got to give in to the demands of the decision makers.
Okay, before we get to Attorney Banks.
Aspect of the entertainment industry. I know over the years, historically, we've heard about the quote casting couch, you know, picking up on Milton's comment. I think that, and this is way prior to the Me Too movement, I think that everything in its time, and that, as you mentioned, Attorney Lee, that over the years, this wasn't a dirty little secret. It was right out in the open. And when we looked at woman upon woman upon woman, you know, all of those accusers and victims that told their story. I think that it wasn't until this documentary was released that the gravity of the evidence just toppled and resulted in the verdict in the R. Kelly case.
Okay, let's go to Rose. Hey, Rose, you got a question for us today or a comment?
Sure. I don't understand, or we don't. We're older women, we've been a long time. But why is it that these musicians are being charged for using these girls? Did their parents know that these girls went in it to be accessible to those men when they got ready? And if they did, how is it that they can legally charge him and not charge the parents for not raising girls or not giving the information about what you have to do before you go into it? And did all these parents know what these girls were doing? Thank you.
Hey, Rose. Rose?
Yeah.
Okay, I lost her. So you saying that the parents are responsible for having their girls have a relationship with R. Kelly? Is that your take on this?
No, I'm asking if the children come home and are the parents asking the girls what they have to do and discussing the situation with them, since they know that they are dealing with them. Do they ask questions? Do they try to explain to girls before they get into that situation?
Well, let me ask you this question, Rose. What information would the parents have available to them at that time to let them know that maybe he's trying to take advantage of their teenage daughter sexually?
Well, if I have a daughter doing business or doing shows with a man or a bunch of men, I would have a discussion about them, or which I do anyway. But I don't understand how it is that they went that long. Those girls went that long without the parents knowing what they were doing and having talking to them or having something done about it before it got to the point that they had charged them.
Well, Rose, that's a good question you asked, but being a parent and being a lawyer, I've seen this world a little maybe through John's eyes. But anyway, like USC is paying millions and millions of dollars because they had a doctor over there examining young students who left home from Virginia and Mississippi and even California, and the doctor took advantage of their loneliness or their position when they came to have a examination, which allowed him to physically molest them. Look at the Olympic guy, Nasser, whatever his name was. He took advantage of a lot of Olympians because of his position as their trusted medical doctor. So a lot of parents believe the people in the entertainment industry when they say they're going to make your child a star and let them have this child. And now we got to go to Europe, and you can't fly to Europe, or you can't go to Vegas, or you can't go somewhere where we got to do a show, but your child is going to be in good hands because you can trust me. So there's been deception practice amongst, I think, with a lot of people who had confidence. I mean, I recently discovered a guy that I trusted until I learned that he separates the women entertainers from their family and don't allow them to contact their family and put them up in an apartment and isolate them. And I know one of the young girls, he did that too. So the parents don't always have that hands-on ability. And in some cases they do, but I don't think that it boils down to that. I think it's the badness or the evilness of these perpetrators that we gotta figure out how to get rid of them.
I wonder how could they get by with it? The parents don't know it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Attorney Banks?
I don't have a further comment on that point. I agree with everything that Milton just stated in that regard.
Yeah, see, I was, but Pierre wanted to have a comment. So Pierre, what's your rebuttal?
Thank you, Nate. And that's why you want people like Miss Rose on the jury. Here's the thing. And here's
Right.
the point I was trying to make. I understand the government going after R. Kelly, even though it took a documentary. I don't really agree with that, but here's my point. There's a documentary on Netflix right now called Dope Sick. The Sacklers turned out hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people from Maine to California to Hawaii, Alaska to Florida. Put a lot of young girls on the street, and they had to do all kinds of things to survive, okay? Sell their bodies and do all kinds of things, human trafficking, everything to get that drug, oxycodone or whatever. They got off with a fine. The government didn't go after them, okay? That's what I want you, the attorneys, to comment on. Forget about R. Kelly. What about the Sacklers and all the lives they destroyed and turned out, the people that they turned out in California, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, and all of this? And thank God for the Washington State Attorney General, who is not accepting $500 million in settlement money, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to take his case to court. Everybody else, they want to settle. But sold out all them people and put all them girls and boys and everything. They got convicted. They got drug addicted. Can you guys comment on that? And I'm going to get off the air. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, big industry and big money has not been punished. I agree with Pierre completely on that. Not to the degree that the little man, the little drug dealer in the street is punished. Oxycontin, they know that this drug was addictive, and they lied to the public and they lied to the government. And some people say that many government officials were bought off to let Oxycontin stay on the market as long as it did, and it has addicted nation damn near. So you're right about big business, big money is getting away with murder.
Well, here's the thing, though. There's a separate legal reason, though. It's a corporation.
Yeah.
As a general rule, a corporation is a separate legal entity. Corporation protects people in general from civil liability, and in some cases, criminal liability. Corporation provides a shield. So what you have to do is pierce the corporate veil.
Right.
And that's rarely done. So one of the things that people are upset about, the Sackler family, the corporation filed bankruptcy, they paid out $4.6 billion, and the Sackler family had a net worth over $10 billion. And so they were trying to get their personal assets from the family. So we didn't file any of those claims yet, but even Johnson & Johnson, a couple months ago, we had those cases and they lost some lawsuit of over $1 billion. So they formed a new corporation, transferred asset to new corporation, and guess what? The new corporation filed bankruptcy. And so in the last month, I've gotten about 75 documents from the bankruptcy. They've been coming in so voluminous, I've not been able to even read all of them, because the corporation allows individual to escape personal liability. It's the American system. Corporation provides the shield. And in our Johnson & Johnson case, we're not even looking at the act beyond that. We're trying to fight off all these bankruptcy pleas. There's a series of lawyers all over the country, but corporations got unlimited assets. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So to answer Pierre, bluntly speaking, corporations provide a certain amount of protections to individuals, and that's why you have them. Now, I'm sorry.
I agree that's why we have them, but I agree with what Pierre is asking. Maybe we should do something to pierce the corporate veil somehow, Nate, and hold some of these families and these directors and officials or owners or stockholders. I don't know, but he's right. They're getting away with murder, by making billions and trillions of dollars from the sale of these drugs, knowing that they are addicted. Something should be done.
Very, very, as was stated by Attorney Lee, it is very, very difficult to pierce the corporate veil. However, there's an opportunity for attorneys to take a look at that law
Right.
and to determine if new law can be made to address this issue involving the corporate veil, to see if accountability can be placed on some of these individuals and stakeholders.
Wow. Well, one closing comment. We got 30 seconds each council. Any closing comments? Attorney Banks?
Well, we've heard a lot this week about the Omicron variant, and what we're hearing is that while it may be more transmissible, that the symptoms may be less virulent than the Delta variant, which just missed out at this point, and more information is coming out every day. But it's just critical for everyone to, if you have not gotten your vaccine, to get your vaccine, and if you're eligible for your booster, to get your booster as well.
Yeah, my comment is don't let your guard down. The variant from South Africa or wherever it's from, it's still COVID and it can kill you. So please wear your mask, get vaccinated. With this fight, this war is not over. We may have won a battle here and a battle there, but this war against this virus is still out here and it's still killing people.
Well, with that summation, I think maybe next week I better get an expert that dealt with this virus to discuss this, because the more information we know, the better we can protect ourselves. So we're trying to cover that, because I think that's a legal issue of today also, whether or not these new hybrid disease process can continue to wreak havoc on our citizenship, our person. But anyway, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us today, our callers, our audience, and stay safe. And we'll be talking to you again next week. And we're going to try to hit this issue about the coronavirus very lightly next week, because it's a big legal issue today. Thank you, everyone. And God bless and keep you.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.